All right, so why do we have speaking lessons at the school? Because we want by Form 6 you will be able to participate confidently in group interaction and individual response. And you do that with the DSE paper 4, which is the speaking paper, and in the SBA, the school-based assessment. So let me tell you a little bit more about the paper 4 and the SBA. First, we will talk about the paper 4, which is the speaking paper. There are two parts to this paper. Part A is the group interaction, or GI. For this part, you will have 10 minutes to prepare notes, to prepare a note card that you can bring into discussion. And if you are in a group of 4 students, you will discuss for 8 minutes. If you are in a group of 3 students, you will discuss for 6 minutes. So that's part A. For part B, you have to do an individual response, or IR for short. This part follows part A immediately. So when you finish your group discussion, the examiner or the teacher will then ask you a question to which you have to answer. Now you will have no time to prepare. In part A, for the GI, you have 10 minutes. But in this part, the IR, you will have no time to prepare. That makes it a lot more difficult. But you only have to answer a question, and you have to do that in 1 minute. As for the school-based assessment, the SBA, there are 2 parts also. For part A, you have to read a book or watch a movie. And when you read or watch a movie, it's important that you read or watch a unreal story, which we call nonfiction, and a real story, which we call fiction. So nonfiction and fiction are the 2 kinds of stories that you have to read or watch. And then you either have to make an individual response, individual presentation, IP, or a group discussion, GI. And in the IP and the GI, you're supposed to talk about what you think about the book or the movies, or the fiction and non-fiction that you have read or watched. So part A. For part B, it is about the elective part, elective of the DSE. For example, social issues, it's a elective. Workplace communication is another elective. So part B is about that elective class. And you have to talk about the information or the knowledge that you learned in this part, the skills that you developed, and then your experience. How do you feel about learning about the elective? And then you have to make an IP or a GI. Now, when you do the SBA, you cannot read from your notes. You have to memorize your script, and you have to tell us your ideas. Now, you can use a note card or a PowerPoint, but you should not read from them. You can refer to them. You can use it to help you make the presentation, but it's not for reading. When you make an IP, the individual presentation, it has to be at least 3 minutes. All right, so it's 3 to 5 minutes. And if you decide to do a group interaction, a GI, you can get a few 3 to 5 friends together and do a group discussion. The SBA will count as 15% of the DSE English mark. 50% of the DSE English mark. So it is pretty important, and so you have to learn how to do it well, and you have to be prepared for it. All right, so that's so much about the speaking paper, paper 4, and the SVA. Now, what kind of skills do you need to have for the speaking paper and the SVA? There are 4 main areas: pronunciation and delivery, communication strategies, language, ideas, and organization. Okay, let me one by one explain to you what these areas mean. In pronunciation, for pronunciation and delivery, you have to say all the words, all the keywords clearly and use the correct words to talk about your ideas. And you have to talk smoothly. You cannot stop too much. And you have to show some feelings: excited, sad, not sure, feeling not sure. When you speak, you have to show your feelings about your topic, about your ideas. And you have to talk loud enough so that everyone can hear you. Your group members, the examiner, the teacher can hear you. Okay, so speaking loud enough is also important. All right, so that's pronunciation and delivery. Next, communication strategies. Okay, what are they? Okay, they are things like body language. Okay, use your hands, use your eye contact when you talk about your ideas. Look at other members in your group. Okay, shake your head when you disagree, nod when you agree, things like that. And you have to talk about your ideas in different ways, not just to tell people what you think, but you have to agree and disagree with other people's ideas also. And when you don't understand what they're saying, or when you have a question, you can ask questions. Okay, if you want to change subject, if you don't like the answer, you can make different suggestions. Right? So those are all different ways of participating in the group discussion. And it is also important that you don't just talk about your own ideas. You have to respond to, you have to talk about other people's ideas. Okay, it's not a presentation, it's not just an individual presentation, it's a group interaction. Okay, interactions means that you talk with each other, you talk to each other. So it's important that you talk about other people's ideas also. Now, if you remember, if you're in a group of 4, you have to discuss for 8 minutes. And if you are in a group of 3, you talk for 6 minutes. All right? So it's very important that you talk during the whole 8 minutes and the whole 6 minutes. Okay? You should not stop after 1 or 2 minutes and then think that you are finished, that you have done your work. Okay? That is not enough. You have to talk from 6 to 8 minutes. Next, we have language. Okay, language means that you use the right vocabulary to talk about your ideas. That we can understand your ideas even when you make mistakes. Okay, I think we expect you to make mistakes because nobody talks with perfect English, right? So you will make grammar mistakes, but the mistakes cannot be so serious that we cannot understand what you're saying. That we cannot understand your ideas. Okay, so pay attention to your grammar. Do you use different words and expressions to talk about your ideas, or do you use the same word again and again and again? Okay, it's not good to just say, "Oh, that's nice. Oh, it's good. No, it's bad." Okay, these words it's not good to use over and over again. You have to try to use different words. And do you use different kinds of sentences? Okay, sometimes it's short, sometimes it's long, and you can use words like although, and, also, but, or however, right, to put your ideas together. Okay, then you will have longer sentences, short and long sentences. Okay, so that's language. And finally, for ideas and organization, okay, the ideas that you talk about in your group discussion, are they about the topic and the purpose of your discussion? All right. If you are planning for a workshop, your ideas should be about the workshop. Okay. If you are writing a letter to the editor, right, your idea should be for the letter to the editor. Okay. So topic and purpose are very important to your ideas. And when you give your ideas, when you talk about your ideas, do you give details? Do you explain by giving examples so that we can understand more about what you're thinking, what you're saying? And if you can put your ideas in order, that would be even better. And you can use like, first, I think that, second, I believe that, and finally, I think that. Right? So use first, second, then, and finally to put your ideas in order, to organize your ideas a little bit. Right? So these are all the things that you should be able to do that in our lessons. All right, we will learn how to do them and we will practice these skills. All right, for the speaking lessons, there are a few requirements. Okay, first, for the daily marks, it's 40%. All right, you have to keep an organized exercise book. That's 10%. I will collect them at the end of the term to see how much work you have done and whether you have organized your work or not. And then there will be a pre-assessment also, all right, for the SEA or for the paper 4. That would be 20%. And then from day to day, do you participate in class? Are you ready to start the lesson when I come in? If I ask to practice pronunciation, do you follow along? Okay, are you prepared? Are you ready to learn the class? The class participation, that's 10%. And besides the daily marks, you also have examination marks, which is 60%. And there are 2 examinations, one after the first term and one after the second term. All right, so that's all you need to know about what the class is for, what you will learn, and what you will need to do. How much do you remember about what I have just told you? I have a little quiz here and see how much you remember. First question, which DSE paper is speaking? A1, B2, C3, D4. Do you remember? It is paper 4. Question 2. How much time do you have to prepare for group interaction, GI, in the speaking paper? A. No time. B. 6 minutes. C. 8 minutes. D. 10 minutes. The answer is D. 10 minutes. Question 3. How much time do you have to prepare for the individual response in the speaking paper? A. No time. B. 6 minutes. C. 8 minutes. D. 10 minutes. The answer is A. No time. Okay? No time for the IR, but 10 minutes for the GI. Question 4. Which is one of the skills you will be tested in the speaking paper? A. Read from a note cards. B. Talk about ideas that match the topic. C. Make no grammar mistakes. D. Give many suggestions. The answer is B. Talk about ideas that match the topic. Okay, it's very important that the ideas that you talk about, okay, is about the topic. Number 5. Which is not a skill? Not a skill. You need to have for the speaking exam? A. Read from a note card. B. Talk about other group members' ideas. C. Say words correctly. D. Speak in good grammar. Answer is A. Okay, you should never read from a note card. Okay, you can look at it to remember the ideas that you have prepared, but you should not be reading from it. Number 6. In group interaction, GI, it is important to A. Finish in 1 minute. Explain your answers, your ideas. C. Take notes. Or D. Read the question paper carefully. The most important thing to do is B. Explain your answers with examples, with your own experience, with data, and things like that. Number 7. Which is not a necessary communication strategy in group interaction, GI. A. Use examples to explain your ideas. B. Agree or disagree with others' ideas. C. Have eye contact with group members. D. Prepare as many ideas as possible. It is not necessary to D. Prepare as many ideas as possible. You need to have good ideas. You need to be able to explain your ideas, but it's not necessary to have as many as possible. Number 8. In part A of the SPA, you don't need to A. Read a story. B. Watch a movie. C. Write a book or movie report. D. Make a 3-minute oral presentation. The answer is C. It's not the book report. Okay, it's to tell us what the book or the movie is about, and then tell us what you think about it, how you feel about it. Okay, that is the more important part. Number 9. Part B of the SPA is about A. An elective module, for example, workplace communication. B. A piece of fiction only. C. A piece of non-fiction only. D. Fiction and non-fiction works. The correct answer should be A. An elective module. Okay, remember, in this part, you have to tell us about how you feel, okay, about what you have learned, about the skills that you have, and about the experience of taking the elective. Number 10. What should you do in the IP of the SPA? A. Read from your notes. B. Present for at least 3 minutes. C. Discuss a topic in a group. D. Give a report about a story. Answer is B. You have to present for at least 3 minutes. Okay, less than that, your presentation is too short. So you need to make sure you have enough ideas to talk for 3 minutes. 11. How much does the SPA count in the DSE? Is it A. 10%, B. 15%, C. 20%, or D. 25%? The correct answer is B. 15%. It's pretty important. And finally, the last question. What do you need to do in speaking class? Do you A. Ask classmates for answers? B. Keep all your work in an exercise book? C. Keep quiet? Or D. Don't answer any questions? What you have to do is B. Keep all your work in an exercise book. Remember, I will collect it at the end of the term to check your work. Okay, so that's a quick review of what we have talked about today. I will see you next time. Be safe.